Pep, pep? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me start. Oh, hi, Carlos. Design is a love language. You guys agree? Okay, before I start, I want you guys to think of something you decided this morning. You know, something that you never really thought about it. Maybe it's the coffee you ordered, or maybe it's the notebook you picked, or the clothes you wore. You know, we always believe that when we decide on something, it always has to be logical, right? But most of the time, feelings arrive first, and that logic explains the choice afterwards. You know, I didn't know this when I was younger. I knew, I just knew that when people reacted on something, they felt differently, or they felt something special. I started as a calligrapher, then a scrapbook maker. I didn't have a grand vision to be like the best graphic designer in the country or in the world. I just needed a few pesos to earn. So I used that talent to be able to support my study when I was still in high school. So I designed carefully handwritten letter or handwritten titles, portfolios, projects of my classmates to be able to earn a few pesos. 20 pesos or 30 pesos was good enough for me to be able to support my meal all throughout the day. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't also glamorous. It was just survival. You know, but even then, I noticed something. When I noticed, or when I handed over their project portfolio or their finished project portfolio, they didn't say thank you to me. They felt something. You know, they smiled differently, they held it differently, they also reacted differently. They felt grateful, they felt proud. And that's when I realized I wasn't just arranging papers, I was arranging feelings. Feelings that, you know, it's that short moment when you feel like you're arranging their thoughts, their processes, and I could feel what they felt. And that was the first time when I encountered empathy. Are you guys familiar with empathy? Awesome. I didn't have the language for it yet. I thought that it might be words of affirmation, or would it be acts of service, or maybe it could be gift giving or quality time. Well, those phrases don't really mean for me back then. It felt like those phrases has that missing part, and I thought I need to fill that gap. I need to feel that meaning. So because design, I felt like it does just not make things look better. It makes people feel seen, right? And when something makes you feel seen, that's love in its widest form. Years later, when I was trying to enter the design industry seriously, let me show you guys some of my. That same need came back. No big clients, no recognition, just the familiar feeling of wanting to matter. Have you also felt that way? And you feel like you're not doing enough for other people, or you're not doing enough for yourself, or you're losing your spark or your potential. So I felt that during the pandemic. So I redesigned a famous local sardines brand. Maybe you still remember when the graphic design community was actually redesigning the famous local noodle brand. Do you still remember that? The noodle brand. So I tried to recreate something that's not the usual noodle brand, and also not the usual of what people usually expect. So I redesigned the local sardines brand. And this is how it looks like. This one, right? I know your reaction. It doesn't really look good because it's not meant to look good. My purpose was not really to make it more enticing for you guys to buy or redesign it, because my sole purpose was to be noticed. I was just a newbie back then. I didn't know anyone in the design industry, but I had to be noticed. I wanted to feel seen. But I felt like when I did this, Not all of the people actually loved it. I was bashed multiple times in some of the communities in the Philippines, especially in the graphic design and freelancing communities. They told me that this design looked like a paint, looked like a kind of battery. But somewhere along the way, I felt like, oh, it's doing its purpose. I'm getting attention, and I'm not recommending it for you guys to do because we call it rage baiting nowadays, right? So I'm not recommending for you guys to do it as well, but it was purposeful for me. I was able to enter the design industry, I was able to connect with a lot of people, and people started messaging me. Not just from potential clients, from bigger brands, even actually the owner of that Sardines actually messaged me or commented on that. So it was the purpose, but there's this one segment when I felt like I needed to touch this segment. Not from the potential partners or the bigger clients, but those who are beginners, who are starters, who are people who don't know how to start or where to begin. They are the designers that I was trying to communicate my designs with. And that's when something shifted again. I realized I wasn't really chasing attention, I was chasing connection. And somewhere along the way, I felt like I really wanted to be seen. But during those journeys, I felt like I learned how to see others. I wasn't doing this for myself. I was doing it for other people. Empathy doesn't always begin as generosity, right? Sometimes it could mask or it could begin as longing. Because I believed I also experienced stuff like what it means to be invisible. So I tried making other people feel visible as well. So that's when I started creating free static tutorials. So there was no jargons. So I started creating static free tutorials. I'm not sure if you've already seen this during the pandemic, but I started creating free tutorials because I knew how it felt like when you don't know where to start, or if the jargons are too hard for you to understand when you really, really want to learn something. So I made it digestible. I made it easier for the people to understand how to design, how to learn design without even paying for it. So it's the simple ones, how to use your font, how to choose colors. And that's when I began to understand something clearly. Design is really a love language. Not the dramatic kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that says, you know, I thought of you. Because think about it. When something is well designed, a product or maybe a brand or that chair that you're currently sitting on, even on a simple label, you don't just see it. You feel it. You feel considered. You feel understood. And empathy, when it becomes visible, looks a lot like love. Well, last 2024, when I attended the International Design Conference, Paolo Mercado said, one of the few panelists during that time, he said, what we design, designs us back. Think about it. And that's true. When we design with empathy, we become more empathetic. When we design without it, we become indifferent. Because we know that design shapes behavior, but it also reveals what we truly value. And maybe that's why Filipino designers right now are quietly thriving globally. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you believe in the Filipino talent?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so not just because we're skilled, but because we design with empathy. We know how to listen to our partners. We know how to read the room, right? And many of us also know how to adapt. We know how to design across cultures because we've already lived across contexts. Maybe poor, maybe rich, or maybe the resources are limited, especially in PUP. I'm a graduate of PUP, and it's hard for us to do stuff when we really wanted it. We don't have enough resources, right? And we just took leverage on what we have, which is one of them, the empathy. And we know that design rooted in empathy travels well. And it can also translate to being a love language. And this matters even more now. Because today, I know this is a very hot topic in the industry. Design can be generated instantly. Have you tried that? Don't be shy to say yes,
Yeah.
it's okay. So, yeah, and AI can actually suggest layouts, right? It can choose colors, it can choose formats or follow rules. But it doesn't know what it's like to need to sell your talent, to be able to earn a few pesos. It doesn't know the feeling of creating something for others. It doesn't know the feeling of believing in someone. Because empathy, it cannot be automated. Empathy comes from experience. And love, real love, is empathy expressed through action. Well, later in my career, someone once told me, Nabbe, your poster made me feel seen. And that exact sentence, it meant more to me than any metric ever could. And that's the real work. That's when it felt like I'm doing the good thing. I'm doing the right thing. Not making things look good, but making people feel understood. I want them to feel considered. I want them to feel that I know what you need. So before I end, I want to share something small. So this is my girlfriend, and I'm still learning. But before clients and bigger conferences, I designed an album cover for my girlfriend. She loved singing so much. She even created different YouTube videos on YouTube, of course, and Facebook, and uploaded it to different social media platforms. And that's how she loved singing. And design was the only way I knew how to say, I believe in you, love. It wasn't really perfect, as you can see. But she loved it. Because I felt like I knew what she needed. And that's when it fully clicked for me. Good design doesn't always come with mastery. You don't always have to be the best, the greatest graphic designer to be able to help someone. It starts with meaning. So before you design your next campaign, your next event maybe you could ask yourself, who is this for? And how do I want them to feel about this? Because this is what design can do if we treat it like love. Maraming salamat po.